So we got the cold weather, the Ohio State Buckeyes are national champions, Donald Trump got inaugurated, and something about manifest destiny. We're going to be talking about all this on the Bill Seng Podcast. Cold. Oh, my word. It is so cold outside, and it's been even colder the past couple days. This is the Bill Seng Podcast. I'd like to welcome you here for today's show. I am Bill Seng, and got a bunch of things to get caught up with, as this has been a busy week. Monday was especially busy, I think, for the entire country in just a variety of ways, as we had OSU versus Notre Dame in the national championship game. We had, over the weekend, a series of playoffs games for the NFL, so that was fun and exciting to watch. And we had the inauguration on Monday, as well, as Donald Trump was inaugurated as the 47th President of the United States of America. So he was the 45th, and now he's the 47th. And an awful lot to cover here today. But first, my word, it is cold outside right now, and the wind chill isn't making things any better. In fact, for me, sometimes it feels like the wind chill is what makes things just drastically worse, as I can stand going outside when it's -5 outside and bundling up, but when you have the wind just cutting through all the clothes that you are wearing, that doesn't do you a whole lot of favors. So it can be 10 degrees with being 5 degrees with the wind chill, and being 5 degrees without the wind chill, and I'd prefer the 5 degrees without the wind chill to the negative 5 degrees without the wind chill versus the -5 degrees feeling like that because of the wind chill, because the wind just doesn't do you a whole bunch of favors through cutting through all those layers of clothes. Quick thing I want to mention, I don't want to let this go for too long. I've been looking into the possibility of getting new music for the podcast and for other things as well that I might be doing. And I've been talking to a man by the name of Daniel Pennell. And I just want to give him a shout out here, because Danny, he does a lot of entrepreneurial sort of stuff, and he's been writing music, and he sent me one of his songs. I'm not going to mention the name of it. I'll tell you the premise of it, because it fits these cold times, and it had something to do with Jack Frost and all that, and it was a fantastic song. For a guy that's doing his own songwriting and all that, I was blown away at what he had achieved. So if it's something where you were looking for music for your podcast or something else, shoot me your information, and I'll pass you along the information for Daniel Pennell, so you can contact him and maybe ask him about what sorts of deals you can get. I was talking to him. Things are sounding pretty good, so I think I might take him up on some things. So I'd like to pass his information along to you as well, if that is something where you are looking for music or some other sort of service along those lines. So let me know. Again, his name is Daniel Pennell. OSU versus Notre Dame. Whew, wow. I didn't know what to think at the get-go of the game, because I know with championship games that they could end up in a blowout. They can end up in a nail-biter. They could end up as a snore fest for all we know. The OSU versus Notre Dame game had a series of shifts, and of course, the first drive kind of scared me a lot. I was rooting for the Buckeyes. I love Notre Dame, but I was rooting for the Buckeyes. And Notre Dame's first drive was 9 minutes and 45 seconds. They started off with the ball and drove for 9 minutes and 45 seconds, leading to a touchdown. And immediately that's scaring me a little bit, because with Michigan, you recall that Michigan had the ball, it seemed like forever when they were playing against the Buckeyes, and ended up nipping them 13-10. So, seeing that the Fighting Irish had the ball for nearly 10 minutes on the opening drive of the ball game was a little bit scary. Now, the Buckeyes fired back. They ended up scoring, and the game from there on wasn't too exciting until the second half, because the Buckeyes pulled away. I believe it was 21-7 at halftime. And, I can't remember who it was that had been scoring all their touchdowns. Number 1, Judkins, I think his name is, just running up the middle, just pounding the ball through and scoring some incredible touchdowns, really helping out the Buckeyes in their victory. But the Buckeyes decided to do something that made me bite my nails. They started going into the mode of where, like, okay, let's not win by too much. Instead, let's go into run the clock down mode. And so the second half for them just really seemed like their goal was simply to run as much time off the clock as possible, which involved them going into what looked like prevent defense, giving the receivers space so they can get down the field, catch the ball, and the clock would remain running. And I'm thinking, why do teams do this? Keep on playing the way you were playing. Don't give up so much yardage. Don't worry about running the time off the clock. Worry about scoring points. And so Notre Dame fights back, and they get within striking distance of winning the ball game. Again, maybe not winning the ball game, but tying the ball game with the Buckeyes, as every time Notre Dame scored, maybe not every time, I'm trying to think. I know that the Fighting Irish, every time they tried for a 2-point conversion, I believe they got it. And they came to, at one point, they were within 8 points of the Buckeyes in the fourth quarter with something like 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. And I'm thinking, what are you guys doing? You're handing this game over to the Fighting Irish. And fortunately, after a series of events, I believe the Buckeyes got the ball back. I can't remember if they kicked another field goal or what. But the OSU, the Ohio State Buckeyes, are the national champions after having lost to their rivals, the Michigan Wolverines, and Ryan Day's job being threatened by millions of fans across the nation, including myself, that finally the Buckeyes are vindicated. Ryan Day is vindicated. He will now go down in history as one of the greats, one of the greatest Ohio State football coaches of all time because of what he has done. And it is impressive to me that not only did he pull this off, now we also see that each time a significant change has been made. You remember back in, 2014, I think it was? Yeah, 2014 is when the Buckeyes last won a national championship. And that was when they just implemented the 4-team playoff system. And so the Buckeyes played Alabama first. I can't remember who they played in the national championship, but they ended up winning it that year. And this year, they changed it to it went from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team playoff, and the Buckeyes did it again. Absolutely incredible. Oh, yeah, by the way, I just remember what it was that really turned things around. A deep pass from Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith that more or less put the game away, put the Buckeyes in scoring range. They end up kicking a field goal, going ahead, I think, by 11 points at that point, and my word, that was something else. But yes, the Buckeyes have won the first the first NCAA playoff, CFP playoff, and they've won the second, the modified, the 12-team CFP playoff, the first one ever. And so if you're a Buckeyes fan, this is a good time to be an Ohio State Buckeyes fan because the play of the game is just so much different than what it was before. I think it's tragic with some of the things that have happened because now it's becoming a lot more commercialized, a lot more, well, maybe not a lot more commercialized, but it's become a lot different from the way that it used to be in college sports, to where essentially these are no longer college athletes. These are professional athletes that are just in waiting to make the step to a higher professional career in the NFL. So nonetheless, it's interesting to see where it's going. I mean, there's no reason to hate it. It is what it is. So you might as well just sit back and enjoy the incredible gameplay. I mean, as I was just blown away by the playoffs the whole time through, and to me, this is just the best way to end Ohio State Buckeyes versus Notre Dame Fighting Irish. As I said before, a dream game, and more or less a dream ending for this dream game. So very grateful, and hopefully Notre Dame will have their year where they're able to have a national championship, because I think that they deserve it. They played hard, much smaller team, much smaller school, and here they were with the Cinderella story. Lou Holt was in the press box watching the game, so it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And got a bunch of other things I want to talk about here as well. I'm going to talk about the Eagles and the Chiefs here. I know it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet, but to me, it's going to be the Eagles and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I'll get to that here in a minute. We had the inauguration on Monday. We'd like to talk about that a little bit as well, because some incredible things are already happening, and I can't even get to all the amazing things that President Donald Trump has already done for our country here in America, but the things that he has done that are more symbolic are actually some of the most significant things that he is doing. In fact, I remember right now one more thing here before I forget, because it is perhaps one of the most important things that Donald Trump wants to do but hasn't done yet, but we will get to that in due time. Right now, I want to talk about the NFL playoffs. I was surprised to see that the Buffalo Bills, I wasn't too surprised, a little bit surprised to see the Buffalo Bills knock off the Baltimore Ravens, as the Ravens were just looking amazing. I mean, I've become a believer in Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is the type of quarterback, kind of a Michael Vick sort of quarterback. I know we hate Michael Vick now, whatever. I don't hate Michael Vick, but I know we all hate Michael Vick now. But he's very much a perfected Michael Vick sort of quarterback. I mean, I am amazed that the man has not gotten injured, as he is an effective running quarterback. And the passes that he was making this weekend against the Bills were amazing. The man has perfected his game, very deserving of the MVP, but it's going to go to Josh Allen because their team was victorious, and Josh Allen also had some incredible plays as well. The first half went to the first half went to the Bills, too much so for the Ravens to be able to catch up. And then the second half went to the Ravens, and they brought it within 2. What a nail-biter of a game that was. I thought it was going to get tied up with the 2-point conversion the Ravens were going for, and the Bills were able to hold them off. I was saying to my boys the whole time, the Ravens are going to fulfill their destiny. They're going to knock off the Bills because the Bills are the only team that can beat the Chiefs at this point in the season. And so it's going to be Ravens versus Chiefs for the AFC Championship, and the Chiefs are going to go to the Super Bowl. But instead, it's going to be the Bills versus the Chiefs. I still think the Chiefs are going to win. The Bills, I think, are the superior team, but the Chiefs are going to win. It's playoff time, baby. I mean, it's just the way that it goes. The Chiefs are ready. They have home field advantage. They have referee advantage. Yes, my goodness, I can't believe some of the calls that I saw over the weekend. Is Patrick Mahomes protected? You better believe he's protected. And it's kind of a tragedy to see the degree that the referees are protecting Patrick Mahomes. Nonetheless, I mean, the Chiefs are still a great team. You can't take that away from them because it doesn't take very much to give them the victory. It just takes one unnecessary roughness call for them to get the edge on the other team, and that seems to be exactly what happened. I mean, there was probably 3 calls I can think of when the Chiefs were playing against the Texans that really gave them the edge, gave them enough power to be able to overcome them in that game. But I'm not going to grudge them for it. I mean, again, great teams are typically favored teams as well. We saw that with the Patriots. Maybe with the Buccaneers to a lesser extent when Brady was there. I mean, we saw it with the Cowboys. I remember back in the 90s watching the Cowboys and watching the referees. When you were in Dallas, you were not winning. Period. That's just how it was. All the calls seemed to favor the Cowboys back in that era. And again, that's just how it goes. The great teams get favor, especially in the hometown. The Chiefs, they get favor when they're not home too. I don't know if the players are just that likable or what's going on exactly, but I have to say that Mahomes and Kelsey are more friendly with the referees than what most of the players are. And so what can you say? Is it fair? Probably not, but it's just how the game is played. And the only way to beat them is to make your performance just that much, so much better than theirs that there's no denying the results of the game. And the Bills so far have been the only team this season that have been able to accomplish that. Can they do it again against the Chiefs? I think the first time was in Kansas City. I could be wrong. Let's see if they can do it again. I don't think so. I think it's going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are up against Commanders, and they've whooped them a number of times, I think, throughout the season. I know they've beaten them at least during the season. The Commanders are on a roll. They are hot. They are dangerous. They are a team to be reckoned with. I just don't think they have what it takes to beat the Eagles. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts is getting better and better. What did I see? Their running back, Saquon Barkley. That man is a monster. Oh, man, I could not believe as I'm watching this guy just plow through the defense. I mean, nobody can touch this guy, this Saquon Barkley. And I would say that, my goodness, this man should be, if he isn't a candidate for MVP, he absolutely should be a candidate for the MVP because he was an unstoppable force. And I believe the Eagles, had 2 losses on the season? So easily the second best team for all intents and purposes throughout the season. I wasn't expecting to see that the Lions were going to get knocked off by the Commanders. That was something. But I guess that they had a bunch of injuries, though, that kind of caught up with them that game. So not too surprising, but still kind of surprising at the end of the day to see that the Lions did not have the wherewithal or fortitude to be able to hold off the Commanders. And so the Eagles and Commanders are going to be the NFC side. The Chiefs versus the Bills is going to be the AFC side. And we'll see how it plays out. I have no predictions except for as far as the performances of the players, except for at the end of the day, regardless of who does well, regardless of what calls happen, regardless of what shenanigans go into the victory for whichever team wins, it's going to be the Chiefs and it's going to be the Eagles. I can almost guarantee it. I hope I have to eat my words. I hope that it's something different because it'd be nice to have a Commanders versus Bills Super Bowl game. But again, I mean, the Super Bowl is going to be the Super Bowl, and I'm going to enjoy it either way. I mean, as much as I've disliked the Eagles in the past, I had a lot of fun watching them play against the Rams this past weekend. And who is that guy? That guy that made those comments, number 8. I can't remember his name, but number 8 for the Rams that said about how he hates seeing the green and the white in the stands, and he hates the fans of Philadelphia and yada yada yada. I said, oh my goodness, this guy needs to take some tips from Donald Trump instead of diminishing and demeaning your opposition. For Donald Trump, it would have been the voters of the other side. You try to cater to them. So instead of saying you hate seeing the green and white in the stands and these people cheering for the Eagles, what you do is you say, you know what? Their fans, they love me more than what they love the Eagles. And they deserve a better team in Philadelphia than the Eagles. In fact, they should all be LA fans. We would give them what they're rooting for. We would give them the team that they deserve and the players they deserve. They deserve so much better, and they love me more than they love the Eagles anyway. That's how you play that. You don't tell the fans of any team that you hate them. Why would you hate the fans? They're just cheering for their team. Win their favor. Tell them that they love you, and maybe they will start to love you. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I've never really understood why fans hate other fans because they don't like the rival team. It doesn't make any sense. The fans are not on the field. They're the ones who are saying stupid things in the stands. And that's what every fan does. I do it too. I've probably said a lot of stupid things already. So yeah, don't hate on the fans. Be cheering against the rival teams, not the rival cheerers, the people that just sit in the stadium and cheer for the team. Like, they're inconsequential anyway. Who cares what they do? Okay, so on that. So that guy, whatever his name was, should have been more like Donald Trump and how he handled that. Again, number 8, I don't remember his name for the LA Rams. Should have been more like Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was inaugurated on Monday, the 20th of January. And yes, indeed, I watched it, would not miss it for the world. It was a great inauguration. It was a classy inauguration. And I am amazed at what he's accomplishing already. I was listening to a podcast from Matt Walsh with the Daily Wire, and he was just rattling off all the things that Donald Trump has already done, and I couldn't keep track of them. Some of the ones that stick out to me. Okay, the most consequential thing that I held on to, birthright citizenship is gone. Okay, there's 2 things. Birthright citizenship is gone. It is over. If you are an illegal immigrant and you come to the United States and you have a child, they can no longer be considered a citizen just because they were born here. This is going to greatly reduce the amount of illegal immigration coming to America, because what happens, they come to America, they have a child, the child's a citizen, and now we feel bad because we cannot deport the parents because their child is a citizen, and we cannot deport a citizen of the United States, right? I mean, that's how it works. Well, that's been put to an end. No more birthright citizenship, and I agree with that. You should not be considered a citizen just because you happen to cross, your parents happened to cross the border when your mother was pregnant and give birth on this side of the Rio Grande. No reason for that, and I don't understand why we were doing that to begin with. The citizenship should be something where your parents are citizens, and thus when you are born an American citizen. I would argue no matter where you are in the world, because some people in the military some people in the military will have a child overseas. Like I believe John McCain. Love him or hate him, I'm not a fan of John McCain, but he was born overseas, and in the whole midst of this whole Barack Obama birther thing, which by the way, I'm not particularly all that skeptical of. He's the one that said that he was from Kenya, by the way. Not he was the one that started all of that. Okay. Anyway, in the midst of all that, the debate about where Barack Obama was born, that the attack from the left then became, well, John McCain was not born in America. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was true. He is born on a military base elsewhere in another country, but his parents were citizens of the United States. So naturally, he was born as a United States citizen. I mean, how much more American can you be than to be born to United States veteran on top of that? So there should be no dispute about your authentic American citizenship if you are born to to somebody who served in the military, who's a military veteran. So into birthright citizenship. Praise God, I am grateful for that. But also, I don't know what the law was, but Donald Trump has put the DEI department, or whatever it's called, on leave, and he has killed wokeness as it stands. That wokeness is gone from our government now. I mean, there are still woke people inside of the government and who have been elected, but as a policy, wokeness has effectively been killed through executive order, and I'm grateful for that as well. It's been around too long. It needed to come to an end. We need to return back to a meritocracy, and you know what? We are going to take care of those who are not able to take care of themselves as well as what most people are able to. I think that we're a compassionate country. In fact, we're even compassionate to these woke people. We're compassionate to the people who, sorry, but that are a little bit confused about their identity or confused about their sexuality or whatever it might be. But we shouldn't be making room to hire people with these deficiencies. People should be hired based on their accomplishments. I was having to explain to my children yesterday because we were watching this skit from the Babylon Bee about Boeing and how they made a satirical skit about the president of Boeing saying, hey, don't worry, if you're flying on a Boeing and your plane is going down, we're guaranteeing you that pilot is a DEI hire. And it's like, wait. We don't care whether they're DEI hires. Well, we do to some degree, because I don't want a DEI hire over somebody that is legitimately qualified for a position. So we want people that are qualified manning positions, especially if they're an airliner. And my goodness, we want the pilot not to be hired because of their race or sexuality or identification of whatever sort, but rather we want somebody who is a good pilot, the best pilot flying our planes. I know I do. I know I want the best pilots flying the plane that I am riding on, not somebody who just happens to be a feel-good hire. Birthright citizenship, DEI, and wokeness dead in our government. That Donald Trump said that our government is returning to the policy that there is only two genders, men and women. Again, thank God for that. That's what the Bible teaches too. He created them male and female is what the Bible tells us. But some of the most consequential things that Donald Trump has done are sort of on the symbolic nature. And they're almost laughable when you hear them, but they actually do bear great consequences and I think do a lot of good for our country. For one, he said he's changing the name of whatever it's called now, whatever mountain it is, back to the name Mount McKinley, as I believe that this Mount McKinley changed names under Barack Obama. To its old Native American name, I guess. Now it's Mount McKinley again, and that's for the best, I think. That the Gulf of Mexico, no longer the Gulf of Mexico. Now it's the Gulf of America. This on his first day right here, Gulf of America. And then, and I'm going to get to this here in a minute, with the significance of this. Also, one of the big things that he wants to do is he wants to take back the Panama Canal. Well, that's a pretty big deal. We gave the Panama Canal away under Jimmy Carter, which, by the way, God rest his soul. Jimmy Carter, all in all, Christian man, and in that respect, I believe the man is in heaven right now, but he was a terrible president. And he did a lot of damage to politics. And I'm sorry, I know people aren't going to like hearing this. He did a lot of damage to the church too. I'm not going to get into all that, but he did a lot of damage to church. Lots of things you see in the Southern Baptist Convention. I don't want to say that they had their origin in him, but he was pushing in the direction that the Southern Baptist Convention has pushed, and now they are where he wanted them to be. And in terms of politically, you know what? I won't go to what I want to say politically ultimately, just as far as to say that Jimmy Carter was a terrible president. He was a failed president, and he was responsible for handing over the Panama Canal. That's why we do not own the Panama Canal. And I didn't know this, but Donald Trump alluded to the idea that China is operating the Panama Canal. Well, that's not good. So I'm glad he's talking about taking back the Panama Canal. I think that's one of the worst mistakes that we made in American history is to give away the Panama Canal. We need to be taking care of that. We need to be operating the Panama Canal. We built the Panama Canal. Why should we not be operating the Panama Canal? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever until you get into ideology. What do I mean? Barack Obama, Jimmy Carter, these men feel bad for being America. They believe that America is the oppressive force in the world. Not a force of good, the oppressive force. Now, why do I have a problem with the idea? I don't believe that government is inherently good by any stretch of the imagination. But again, I believe in the brilliance of the founding of the United States of America. That the way that America was founded was under Christian principles, and it was kind of an anti-government foundation. That the founders did not trust government, so they pitted government officials essentially against each other to create chaos in the government, to make it really hard to pass new laws. That's the way our government was structured. But not only that, the founding was rooted in American pride, in this rugged pioneer spirit that we are going to go out into the unknown and take land. And we're going to spread the gospel in doing so. And yes, that actually was one of their goals. They called it manifest destiny. I know that manifest destiny has become a bad word because some people have affiliated it with white supremacy. It is not white supremacy. Manifest destiny actually has strong theological roots inside of post-millennialism, more of a reformed sort of theology. Now, I'm not reformed myself, and I'm not post-millennial. I'm a premillennialist, and somewhere in the ballpark of dispensational, covenantal theology sort of blend going on, I would say, maybe. I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark. I would say, for the sake of argument, I'm dispensational, but a lighter form of dispensationalism, I would maybe argue, as far as theologically. But manifest destiny is more so post-millennial, and it's under the premise that Christianity's goal is to evangelize the world and to Christianize the world, that the governments of the world will become Christian governments. Now, for a premillennialist, what I see happening ultimately is that that's probably not possible. I don't think that's within God's design for how things are going to play out, at least up until a certain point in history. But I believe that something like that could happen temporarily, just that we know there's going to be a great falling away eventually. When is that going to be? We don't know. But I do believe, until then, that we ought to embrace the idea that we are to evangelize the world and take as much ground as possible, not necessarily politically, spiritually, but you know what? Paul was always advocating for the rulers of his day to give their lives to Christ. Why? Because that would open up for greater evangelistic opportunities. And that's what I'm talking about right here. That by naming it the Gulf of America and naming it Mount McKinley, and wanting to take back the Panama Canal, I don't know if he's serious about this, but making Canada the 51st state and possibly buying Greenland, that's taking ground, in my opinion, to the gospel, because it's spreading the American ideology to the world. It's no longer being ashamed of the fact that we were founded as a Christian nation. I know that's not necessarily Donald Trump's main goal, is to say that, hey, we're a Christian nation, but he wants to spread Americana. He wants to spread the American ideology, which is freedom. Well, in order to understand freedom, you have to understand Jesus. You have to understand Christianity. because ultimately what we find is our roots in freedom are rooted in the Word of God itself. That's where our rights come from, that's where our freedom comes from, and that's where we understand what freedom in Christ really means. And I believe that we really can take a lot of ground this way. Now, again, is this going to be something that gets out of hand? It could. I don't know. I mean, really, I don't know what I would think about us going too far as America. I don't know that every country should be America. But you know what? I wouldn't feel bad about all of North America being America. And I wouldn't feel bad about Haiti being America. I wouldn't feel bad about Cuba being America. I wouldn't feel bad about Mexico being America. I wouldn't feel bad about Brazil being America. Why? Because the people in these countries are suffering horribly from corrupt, evil governments that are playing ball with bad people. Drug dealers, human traffickers, sex slavery, you name it. They are doing awful things and hurting people, oppressing. This, what is his name? Papa something over in Haiti. Basically, the person in charge over in Haiti, Papa Doc, I believe his name is Papa Doc. I think that's his name. And he has these people convinced that he is the embodiment of the god of death. Okay, and he's taking advantage of them that way. That's not good. That's a bad thing. Would I feel bad if America said, you know what, Haiti, we're buying you and we are transforming you? Praise God if that happens. I want the people of Haiti to be able to experience some form of relief in their... I mean, we're not talking about luxury. These people are living in the worst forms of poverty in Haiti, and it just should not be with our relationship to Haiti. So, first of all, lift up prayers to these other countries that I'm mentioning right here. I believe that's a good thing. If we bought all of South America, that would be for the good of South America, really. I don't know what I think about that. I believe in countries. I believe in borders. That would definitely change the political dynamics of America. I don't think that we should just take over governments for the sake of installing our own leaders. So if, we took ground like that, I would say that they would have to be under our government per se. I don't know how you would conquer a country. I mean, we tried it in Iraq and all these other places. I can keep on going on about this, but I think that ultimately, even though it's under the idea of manifest destiny and whether Donald Trump knows it or not, a theological structure that I don't necessarily agree with, but nonetheless, I still think that the aims and the goals are good, things that we should perhaps pursue, and if we're able to do so peacefully, that we absolutely should. Why not? I mean, we can relieve people from suffering. We can relieve people from just not just physical oppression, but spiritual oppression too, as some of these places are just absolutely spiritually desolate. So we could bring Jesus to the world more effectively. Imagine that. If we were able to travel across the North America and maybe South America without having to get a passport, imagine what sort of opportunities that opens up for the common person to be able to help in these places and for America to be able to do good inside of the world. And who knows, maybe the message of freedom could spread even further. Until the great falling away. There's going to be a great falling away. I'm convinced of that. I believe that. There's going to be a great falling away. But you know what? Let's win as many souls as possible. My name is Bill Sang, and this is the Bill Sang Podcast. Be blessed.
Black Swan Blues, take me home. Black Swan Blues, take me home.